Alrighty, this is gonna be kind of like one of those weird videos I do. I kind of doing this on like a whim, but something I've been trying to do is go see the new Joe Frazier Ali statue in Feasterville. I believe at the Joe Hand Promotions, or maybe Joe Hand Gym. I've been meaning to do that over, during the week. It's Sunday now. I always forget during the week, or I'm too busy. So, despite no one, because I don't think it's open on Sundays, but I'm hoping, and I don't know, I'm hoping you can at least see the statue, through maybe it's like behind a window or some. It's one of those things where, as soon as I heard about it, I knew I had to go see it. So here we go. Gonna document it a little bit. I'm not really too good at multitasking, but let's hope for the best. And it's about 10 miles from where I live, so it's gonna be a 20-minute drive. But I don't mind. And I'm hopefully I can get a good sense of how good it looks, because seeing it online and seeing it in person is totally different. I remember when I heard about the first Frazier statue they put in the sporting area in Philadelphia. I saw it through pictures and I said, wow, that looks pretty good. And when I saw it in person, it blew me away. It was a fantastic. It's great for the whole Frazier family. It's sad that it took that long to get a statue for arguably the greatest Philadelphia fighter, despite him being from South Carolina. I guess it's a good time to maybe kind of go into the history I have when it comes to being well, first of all, I didn't really like boxing too much until I got a little bit older. So what happened was I don't even know how young I was, or it's kind of hard to pinpoint the thing, but the time, but when I remember when I was a little younger, watching a lot of YouTube videos and stuff like that, and I don't know how, but I came across some real vintage footage, of Ali. That one where he's fighting Cleveland Williams before the exile, and I couldn't believe it. So, because I think at one point, even if you're not a boxing fan, you kind of want to look at what Ali's all about, because he's such a huge, probably the most well-known boxer of all time, easily, I think. But I'm just watching, and because you have to appreciate the greatness of Ali. I tend to read a lot of Frazier fans talk about Ali, and they kind of say, oh, he wasn't that great, and I understand that. It's just regardless, I would definitely say Ali is probably the greatest heavyweight of all time. Obviously there's a few other fighters you can argue are better, but for me, I definitely would say Ali. So I'm watching Ali videos and I'm seeing him dodge every punching while he's moving back, knocking dudes out, Sonny Liston, stuff like that. I kept watching the videos and I go, man, this guy's be undefeated. Who could touch this guy? He's too fast and too athletic and everything. So then when I go on and I'm watching some more videos, you know what I watch? I watch Ali versus Shavers. And if anyone remembers correctly, it was pretty late in Ali's career. As a very new casual boxing fan at that time, I didn't really understand, where his prime was and when it ended and all that stuff. Obviously, looking back, that was way past Ali's prime. What was it, 80, 81? And Shavers, he landed some real good punches. I think there's like one punch in general where he hits Ali like flush, and you know, as so, you know, that's like the first time I kind of saw this guy that I just started watching, and I'm like, man, you know, he took the punch well, but it's like, this Ernie Shavers guy must be good to land a punch on him. And I do love Ernie Shavers. I think he is one of the best heavyweights, you know, in the 80s. Fought Larry Holmes a couple times, great fights. But yeah, he rocked Ali good, and I said, wow. And I think I was just watching the video, and you know, my father, he asked me, he said, what are you watching? I said, well, you know, I'm watching Ali. I'm sure you know him. And you know, this fight's crazy. And I'm explaining the fight to him. I go, this guy's crazy. This Shavers guy, he actually, you know, hit him good and all that. I'm like, but obviously Ali still won. You know, I'm like in Ali mode, you know. And my dad mentions, he says, you know, the first guy that actually beat Ali was Joe Frazier. And I go, Joe Frazier? I'm like, all right, let me go watch that video then. I'm watching, you know, and I turn on Fight of the Century, which is my favorite fight of all time. I'm watching Fight of the Century, and as soon as I saw Joe come out bobbing and weaving, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what is this guy's style? Like, I was watching a lot of other classic boxers. Obviously, there are some boxers who fight very similar to Joe Frazier, but that was the first time I saw that head movement, that it was seemingly random at all times, and he's like crouching, bending over, and I couldn't believe it. I said, this guy looks like an animal. And you know, I'm curious to see what happens. And you know, I watched the whole fight right then and there. And from that point on, it was like all Joe Frazier. You know, he's to this day, he's probably my, you know, biggest hero, you know, for sure. You know, if that's the one thing I could go back, I would do whatever I could to at least meet, you know, Smokin Joe. That'd be fantastic. I know people who have, and you know, everyone generally says great things about Joe Frazier. He was a great guy, inside and outside the ring. So from that point on, like I said, I was hooked on Frazier. That's kind of a pun. Wow. And I just kept watching, and before you know it, I'm just like, then and then at that point, I'm learning about his life and all the obstacles he had to go through to accomplish what he did is unbelievable. Some of the things he had to go through. Joe Frazier, he grew up poor. You know, not a lot of people. Man, it's a hard task to go from poor to champion of the world. Let's see. As a young boy, one of his uncles said, "You're going to be the next Joe Louis." Something along the lines of that. And from that point on, I'm telling you, from that point on, Joe knew he was going to be. He was going to do whatever it took to become the champion of the world. You know, there's so many things he had to go through that it's like I'm surprised there hasn't been, you know, a theatrical movie, not a documentary, but like an actual movie about his life, because, you know, when he was 15, I believe it was 15, he was real young. 15, he left South Carolina on his own with no money, and he took the train to New York City, and he lived there for a while, but he was getting into some trouble there for a little bit. He eventually moved to Philly with a relative, I believe his aunt, where he stayed there. And at that point, Joe Frazier, supposedly he was not in the best of shape. So he went to some gym, like a police ran gym or something like that, and someone saw him and said, man, this guy, he has what it takes to be a good fighter. So originally he won the gold for in the Olympics when he did go. He wasn't originally supposed to be the guy to fight and represent America, but he went just in case with the boxing team or whatever, as like a if he had to fill in for if anything ever happened to the it was Buster Mathis. It was like a really weird reason, but he dropped out. And Joe Frazier, here we go. This guy, he didn't even think he was gonna fight. I guess he just went. So they go, all right, well, I guess we have to use Joe. And he won gold for, I mean, like, that's the kind of stuff it's like, it was like meant to be, you know? A lot of events had to happen for Joe to get his chance. And it happened, and from that point on, he never looked back. It was almost like he was destined for greatness. That's a little cliche to say, but some of the things that lined up for him, like it was almost like an accident, when it comes to him going all the way to beat Jimmy Ellis and become the undisputed champion of the world, and then to go on and fight Ali after his exile, and he was going to do whatever it took to prove that he was the best fighter on that night, and he did that. A lot of people say the second fight is probably the lesser of the three. Still a great fight. A lot of clinching. That's kind of the controversy there. It was still a great fight. And then you got Manila. Thrilla and Manila. That's probably one of the most brutal fights. Both, one of the most brutal give and take fights I've ever seen. It was like they were trying to kill each other. The stuff that they hit each other with, it's like, and this was in 75, so they were, they're getting older, so some of their reflexes and skills sort of diminished, so they were fighting on like pure instinct by the end of that fight. And then you have one of the most defining moments in all of boxing. I think it almost cements the legacy. This almost cements the legacy more than round 15 of Fight of the Century for Joe, because you have him go to his corner at the end of the 14th. His eyes are closed. He can't see nothing. He fought maybe the last two rounds practically without vision, because his eyes were so severe. He had bad sight in one eye, and he was just so banged up. But he never stopped. He wanted to fight. He was sitting on the stool at the end of the 14th, begging to go out. There's that rumor that's like Ali was ready to give up. I'm not so sure. Even if he wanted to give up, I don't think he would have. I think if Joe goes out there in the 15th round, it could get ugly for him. I think just the fact that he was begging to go out there and they had to force him to stop fighting at that point, I think that says enough about his character and his determination and his will. You can't take that away from him, And Eddie Futch, his trainer, said something along the lines of, what you did here will never be forgotten. Here we are. You could see it when you're driving by. It's fantastic. I don't know if I mentioned it. This statue was made for the 50th anniversary of Fight of the Century. They got a little plaque here. I might read that in a minute. And what do we got here? Ali. I'll get the best footage I can get here. There's glass here. I can't really get in there. And then we got my man Joe Frazier. Oh man, I need a better shot of him. It's a bit hard with the glare, but this statue is looking fantastic. Like I said, a lot of people give Ali a lot of shit, but he's half of what made this fight the greatest fight of all time, in my opinion. We'll probably come out and take a few pictures. The statue looks fantastic. I'm gonna have to probably come back here. Let me get a shot of this plaque here, in case anyone wants to read that. I might read that later. I don't know. All I know is these two were the greatest fighters, the greatest rivalry, I should add. Their willpower and their heart matched by no one. And there you have it. The Fight of the Century was one of the only fights to ever live up to the hype, and if you research a lot, the hype was unbelievable. I mean, you got two undefeated fighters with a solid claim that they're the undisputed champion of the world. They both fought their hearts out. You have to give Ali a lot of credit for getting up. I mean, I always will give him a lot of credit for getting up after that hook in the 15th round. I also, when you watch it, it's hard to believe Frazier even had the energy to pull off a punch like that at the end of a 15-round fight. That was nonstop. Both those guys, they hurt each other a lot. Like I said, I respect both fighters. Ali, Frazier. It was a bit bitter towards the end for those guys, but at the end of the day, I think they definitely respected each other. I do wish that they kind of made more appearances towards the end. I know Ali was very sick towards the end of his life. Frazier was pretty rough too. Frazier's death was so sudden. I think he went to the hospital and died like a month later. Very tragic for the boxing world and for especially the Frazier family. And I'm sure these statues mean the world to them, as it should to almost just about everyone who's interested in the sport of boxing. So, I'd like to say, rest in peace to both of them. Two of the greatest champs, two of the greatest heavyweight champs, two of the greatest fighters ever. The statue looks great. It's hard. It might be hard to see, especially when I was trying to get Joe's, because the way it's angled, it was just kind of tough. Hopefully, this video isn't too long. I'll probably try and cut it up, but very happy to see it. It's like in a window. It might be tough to get too close to it, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out. With that, it's been fun. Rest in peace, champs.